I don't think that I'm that good that I could come out here every day for 17 years and fool you. This is me. And my intention is to always be the best person I can be. And if I've ever let someone down, if I've ever hurt their feelings, I am so sorry for that.
Ellen DeGeneres built her career around two very simple words: be kind. For nearly 2 decades, she appeared on American television screens every afternoon. She gave away cars, hugged celebrities, and brought smiles to millions of people. But in 2020, everything changed. Former employees began speaking out. They told stories of fear, harassment, and a workplace shrouded in terror. The woman who had always preached kindness was accused of creating a culture in which employees were even afraid to look her in the face. By 2022, her empire had collapsed. What really happened behind those studio doors? The truth was darker than anyone had ever imagined. Ellen DeGeneres was born on January 26, 1958, in Metairie, Louisiana. Her father, Elliot, worked as an insurance salesman, while her mother, Betty, worked in real estate. But their home was unlike those of ordinary families. It was governed by the strict beliefs of Christian Science. Her father was the first reader at their church, a role similar to that of a preacher. And he followed the religion's teachings without question, allowing no room for debate. No drinking, smoking, swearing, showing emotion, or taking medication. Even things like aspirin were forbidden. Ellen did not see a doctor for the first time until she was 13. They believed that every problem could be solved through prayer. If you got sick, you were simply told that you had not prayed sincerely enough. She grew up in a place where you always had to pretend that everything was fine, even when it was not, and emotions were something you were not allowed to show. Then 1973 came. Her parents decided to separate, and in 1974, they officially divorced. Ellen was only 15 years old at the time. Because her family was so emotionally closed off, she never saw it coming. She did not even know there were problems between them. She once said that she never knew how anyone in her family truly felt. The Christian Science sect had taken away her chance to have normal relationships, and the divorce shattered everything for good. Her mother, Betty, moved Ellen to Atlanta, Texas. Her brother, Vance, remained in Louisiana with their father. The family had fallen apart. Ellen, still only a teenager, was forced to take on adult responsibilities at home. Her mother was deeply distressed, and Ellen had to try to take care of her. As a child, Ellen had many dreams. She loved animals and wanted to become a veterinarian. But those dreams conflicted with her religion. Becoming a veterinarian meant placing faith in science and medicine, something that was not accepted in the world she grew up in. She had many questions about how the body worked. But even those questions were not allowed to exist. Her mind longed to explore, while her circumstances forced her to be obedient and silent. She noticed the contradictions between what adults said and what she saw with her own eyes. But when you are a child and realize that the world makes no sense, all you can do is keep those thoughts to yourself. For years, that pressure continued to build inside her. Then, in 1976, her mother remarried. Betty married a man named Roy Grussendorf, and the family settled in Atlanta, Texas. Ellen had to start all over again with a new school, a new town, and a new stepfather. Around the same time, Betty was diagnosed with breast cancer. She had to undergo a mastectomy, which meant surgery and medical care. Exactly the things their religion taught were wrong. But by then, they had no other choice. It became a moment that shook their faith. The surgery was never talked about. Ellen, only 16 at the time, quietly helped her mother recover. She had to exercise with her mother and tend to her wounds. The experience brought mother and daughter closer. But at the same time, it forced Ellen to grow up once again. She was no longer simply a daughter. She was both a nurse and a caregiver. Even though she was still only a teenager trying to get through school and cope with a broken family. And then things began to get worse. Ellen's stepfather, Roy, began abusing her. She was only 15 when it started. He told the girl that he needed to examine her breasts to check for lumps, pretending that it had something to do with her mother's cancer. He took advantage of her innocence and fear. One night, he tried to break into her room. Terrified, she kicked out a window and ran away. That night, she stayed at the hospital just so she could feel safe. But she remained silent. She did not yet understand enough about her body or abuse to put into words what was happening to her. She blamed herself for being too afraid to stop it. It was not until many years later, in 2005 and then again in 2019, that she publicly spoke about what had happened in an effort to help others who had gone through similar experiences. After graduating from high school, life did not get any easier. She graduated from Atlanta High School in 1976, but attended the University of New Orleans for only one semester before dropping out. She was supposed to study communications, but instead, she struggled to make ends meet. Her parents' divorce meant she no longer had financial support, so she took any job she could find. She worked at a law office with her cousin Laura, then at JCPenney, waited tables at TGI Fridays, and later painted houses, worked as a bartender, and served as a receptionist. She did everything she could just to survive. She understood the irony of it very well. Years later, she would become wealthy, with a net worth exceeding $500 million. Back then, however, she was just a poor young woman struggling to make a living. Her mother's cancer had shaken her family's faith to its very foundation. But what made everything even worse was the silence. No one talked about the mastectomy. No one talked about emotions. Ellen had to shoulder everything while pretending that nothing had happened. She had to live by religious rules that no longer made sense to her. That was also when she abandoned religion for good. She became agnostic, rejecting the ideas that had controlled her life from the moment she was born. Her brother, Vance, chose a different path. Born in 1954 and 4 years older than Ellen, he had served in the Marine Corps. Afterward, he pursued music and became an important figure in the New Orleans underground music scene in the late 1970s. He played bass for the band The Cold, which was later inducted into the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame. He even worked as a radio host. While Ellen was trapped in dead-end jobs and enduring abuse, Vance was creating. They followed different paths, but they remained extremely close. The two always supported each other despite living in different states. Ellen had once dreamed of working in the legal profession, but the abuse she endured and her mother's betrayal shattered that dream. When Ellen finally told her mother about Roy's abuse, Betty did not believe her. She continued living with Roy for another 18 years until he died in 1997. That denial wounded Ellen deeply. Around the same time, she worked at a law firm, surrounded by people who were supposed to protect others. Yet no one protected her. At the age of 22, another tragedy struck. Ellen was in love with a woman named Kat Perkoff. The two temporarily broke up, and Ellen moved out. One night in 1980, she witnessed a horrific car accident. At the time, she had no idea that Kat was inside the car. She died at just 23 years old. The next morning, Ellen learned what had happened and was completely devastated. She could no longer afford to pay rent and eventually found herself sleeping on a mattress in a flea-infested basement. At the lowest point of her despair, she wondered why her girlfriend had to die while the fleas just kept multiplying. That thought became her first comedy routine, a phone call to God. It was dark, painful, and funny all at once. That routine paved the way for her stand-up comedy career. She got her start at Clyde's Comedy Club in New Orleans in 1981, walking in and introducing herself as a comedian. She had no experience at all, only raw pain that she transformed into laughter. In 1982, she entered a nationwide Showtime competition called Funniest Person in America. She won. That achievement changed everything. She went from someone working jobs that depended on tips to a name known across the country. She began touring, was invited to appear on HBO, and suddenly no longer had to scrape by from day to day. She was moving steadily towards success. Later that year, she moved to San Francisco to join the comedy scene. She performed at clubs such as the Punchline and Cobb's, doing multiple sets every night, sometimes without being paid at all. Her style was gentle and subtle, in contrast to the bolder approach of many comedians of that era. But she persevered, constantly refining her delivery and voice in front of demanding audiences. She gradually learned what made people laugh and what made them think. Then came the moment that changed her life. In November 1986, she was invited to perform on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. That day, she forgot to set the parking brake and had to run after her car on Melrose Avenue. When she took the stage, she performed her phone call to God routine, which had been inspired by the death of her first love. Carson loved the routine. He broke with tradition and invited her to sit down on the couch, a gesture he had never extended to any female comedian on her very first appearance. That night made her a star. Ellen DeGeneres did not achieve success overnight. Back in 1989, she made her first television appearance as Margot Van Meter, a quirky and overly enthusiastic secretary. It was a television show called Open House, which began airing on Fox on August 27th. The show ran for only 24 episodes and ended on May 6, 1990. Ellen did not play the lead role. She was the comic relief in a real estate office filled with eccentric characters. No one knew it at the time, but this was truly the first step that took her from the stand-up comedy stage into scripted television. The series lasted only one season before ending, but she still left a lasting impression on viewers. Then, in 1992, Lauryn Hill came along. Ellen played a nurse named Nancy McIntyre. Only 5 episodes had aired when ABC pulled the show on October 28th. It was a failure. Yet even with only a few brief minutes of screen time, one television critic still said that Ellen was the only reason worth watching the show. The producers agreed. Although the show failed, they did not forget her. And when they later created a new show, they wrote a role specifically for her. That show premiered in 1994. It was originally called These Friends of Mine, but in 1995, it was renamed Ellen to avoid confusion with Friends, which had become popular that year. Ellen played Ellen Morgan, a shy bookstore owner. The series ran for a total of 109 episodes and ended in 98. But it was episode 22 of season 4 that changed everything. The episode aired on April 30th, 1997. Ellen's character came out as gay on national television. Shortly before that, Ellen had also publicly come out in real life. She appeared on the cover of Time magazine on April 14th with 3 words: "Yep, I'm gay." The episode drew 42 viewers. It was ABC's highest-rated program of the year. But immediately after it aired, her studio was flooded with hate mail. Thousands of letters, and even more seriously, a bomb threat. Someone called in the threat, but they had miscalculated the timing. The crew had already finished filming by then. Ellen later said she had never felt so frightened. ABC began to back away. They started placing warning labels, parental advisories, on her episodes simply because they featured scenes involving gay people. After that, everything gradually began to fall apart. Ratings plummeted. In 1997, the show ranked 30th, but by 1998, it had fallen to 45th place. Ellen lost 1/3 of her audience. ABC filmed 3 additional episodes. They refused to air 2 of them. One episode featured a same-sex kiss. ABC believed the show had gone too far. Conservative groups cheered and even celebrated, while LGBTQ media groups said the show had become too serious. Ellen's career ground to a halt. In May 1998, ABC canceled the show. 2 completed episodes were shelved. There was no goodbye, no ending, only silence. And then the Anne Heche era began. They were publicly in a relationship from 1997 to 2000. The world was not ready for it at the time. Everything changed the moment the two appeared together at the premiere of the film Volcano. Anne was reportedly threatened with being fired. Ellen was also blacklisted. A Fox executive reportedly once said that Anne would not be cast in a movie with Harrison Ford if she continued to be with Ellen. At that very premiere, security staff tapped them on the shoulder and told them they were not allowed to be photographed together. The message could not have been clearer. Leave. When they broke up in 2000, the story became even darker. One day later, Anne was found at a stranger's home in Fresno in a confused state, calling herself Celestia and talking about a spaceship. She later admitted that she had used ecstasy and was dealing with deep psychological trauma from her childhood. It was one of the most shocking celebrity breakups in Hollywood that decade. In 2001, Ellen attempted to revive her career with a new CBS series called The Ellen Show. It was her second attempt at a sitcom. She played a technology executive who returned to her hometown. The show was a major failure. Only 13 episodes aired. Ratings collapsed after just a few weeks. The show was pulled from the schedule in January 2002. It was Ellen's second major television failure in just 4 years. But then came the biggest turning point of her life. On September 8, 2003, The Ellen DeGeneres Show officially premiered. The show did not have an elaborate production. It was filmed at NBC's small Studio 11 in Burbank. No one had high expectations, but Ellen danced. She gave away gifts. She made celebrities feel safe. And somehow, that approach worked. The show won 15 Daytime Emmy Awards in just its first 3 seasons. That had never happened before. By 2005, she was drawing 2.5 million viewers every day. Her 12 days of giveaways promotion gave more than $3,000 worth of gifts to each audience member over the course of 12 episodes. By 2008, the show was forced to move to a larger venue. In 2015, Warner Brothers renamed the studio The Ellen Stage. The show lasted 19 seasons, totaling 3,339 episodes. She received 171 Emmy nominations and won 63 awards. She even transformed daytime television by creating viral content before many others did. Her videos went viral on YouTube and Facebook before other shows knew how to post videos effectively. Guests cried, children danced, celebrities made headlines. At her peak, Ellen had more than 4 million views. 2 million people followed her every day. The giveaways, games, and dance contests made her seem unstoppable. Then Finding Nemo came along. The film was released on May 30, 2003. But Ellen had begun recording Dory's voice in 1998. Director Andrew Stanton wrote the role specifically for her. The film grossed $941,637 million worldwide, nearly $1 billion. The film had a production budget of $94 million. Ellen's voice performance became iconic. The scene in which she talks to a whale became a classic moment, and she repeatedly pushed for a sequel. The sequel finally arrived in 2016. In 2008, Ellen married Portia de Rossi. They had originally planned to hold a commitment ceremony. But when California legalized same-sex marriage that summer, Ellen proposed. They were married on August 16th at their home in Beverly Hills. There were only 19 guests, and both wore custom wedding attire designed by Zach Posen. Her mother, Betty, and Portia's mother, Margaret, were both there. Portia legally changed her name to Portia Lee James DeGeneres in 2010, although she continued to use her stage name. By 2014, Ellen's career had reached its peak. On March 2nd, she hosted the Academy Awards. It was there that she took the most viral selfie in history. Jennifer Lawrence, Meryl Streep, Bradley Cooper, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie. The tweet received more than 3.3 million retweets. Twitter actually crashed. Technically, it was a Samsung advertisement. But backstage, she posted the tweet using an iPhone. That year's Academy Awards drew 43 million viewers. It was the biggest public moment of her career. She became the highest-paid woman on television, earning $75 million a year. Then came her own brand. In June 2015, she launched ED by Ellen. It started with $175 blazers and $50 kale-printed coasters. The name came from a nickname Portia had given her. The brand quickly expanded. Her products appeared at Nordstrom, Gap Kids, and Bed Bath & Beyond. She launched a design show on HGTV. She published a home decorating book priced at $35. In 2016, she founded Ellen Digital Ventures and gained complete control of EllenTube, her video platform. Her net worth skyrocketed. By 2018, she was worth approximately $450 million. In 2007, she hosted the Academy Awards for the first time and won 40 awards. 18 million followers. Viewership among young women increased by 15%. That year's theme was classic lines from movies. She did an outstanding job. Critics described her performance as safe, smart, and polished. Then, in 2016, President Obama awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The ceremony took place on November 22nd. Ellen burst into tears. Obama said that she had shouldered the pressure of publicly coming out when no one else dared to do so. He said that she had helped make the world more honest and open. That day, she stood alongside legends such as Tom Hanks, Bruce Springsteen, and Michael Jordan. The award did not merely make her a star, it turned her into an icon. By 2006, she had donated nearly $10 million to Hurricane Katrina relief efforts. She returned to New Orleans in 2006 and personally helped open a restaurant for a woman who had lost everything. She used her television show, her fame, and her influence. Warner Bros. Contributed $500,000. She spoke up for people who had been abandoned by the government. She stood in the streets of her hometown and shouted through a megaphone, "Rebuild New Orleans." And throughout it all, Ellen continued to expand her career. Her show brought in between $70 million and $90 million a year. She kept 60% of that money through reruns, product deals, and advertising revenue. She earned approximately $287 to $356 per episode. That meant simply appearing on and hosting the show brought her around $50 million. She signed a deal with CoverGirl. She continued voicing Dory. She and Portia invested in real estate, buying and selling dozens of large homes throughout California. By July 2020, a shocking truth began to emerge from behind the dazzling lights and bright smiles of the Ellen DeGeneres show. On July 16th, BuzzFeed published an article exposing the experiences of 36 current and former employees who had worked there. And the workplace was nothing like the cheerful, happy place viewers had imagined. On the contrary, they described an environment filled with fear. Some said you could be punished simply for requesting time off after a parent died. Others said they were not allowed to speak to Ellen or even look at her. One black woman said senior producers had made inappropriate comments about her hairstyle, saying it was too black for television. Another black employee said they were told to blow dry their hair to look more professional. These were not simply minor issues. They formed a pattern. The "Be Kind" motto that had made the show famous did not exist in real life. One employee summed up the problem with a short statement that resonated powerfully with many people. That kindness only existed when the cameras were rolling. Everything was an act. The person who faced the most criticism was executive producer Ed Glavin. Employees said he ruled through fear. His behavior was aggressive and crossed numerous boundaries. More than a dozen employees said he had touched women without their consent, particularly during live tapings. According to sources, he frequently put his arms around their waists, touched their backs, commented on their bodies, and on one occasion even pressed himself against a woman in an editing room. Women on the crew felt so uncomfortable that they formed buddy groups to avoid being alone around him. During one season, Glavin fired 9 stage managers, most of them men, simply because he could. When people complained, he told them they should consider themselves lucky to still have jobs and threatened to blacklist them if they caused trouble. He remained in power for more than 7 years before finally being fired in August 2020. But the story was far from over. Some employees said they lost their jobs after requesting time off for surgery, mental health treatment, or even the death of a loved one. One employee said they were fired just days after their mother died. Their supervisors said grief made people unreliable. Another person was forced to choose between their job and their child's bone marrow transplant. When they refused to reschedule the surgery to accommodate the show's filming schedule, they were demoted and later lost their job. A female writer spoke up about racist jokes in the writer's room, but was fired just 2 weeks later. The show's human resources department was no help either. One former employee said they felt completely powerless and trapped. But the problem did not come only from the producers. Kevin Lehman, the head writer and co-executive producer, faced more than 10 allegations of sexual harassment, all from male employees. The most serious incident occurred in 2013, when he was accused of cornering a young writer in a bathroom at a party and demanding oral sex, while promising that it would benefit the writer's career. He was also accused of groping other male assistants during meetings. One employee said Lehman touched his genitals right in front of other people. Another said Lehman kissed his neck in a parking lot while pinning him against a wall. He frequently targeted young male writers and promised to help advance their careers in exchange for sexual favors. He once told one victim, "That's Hollywood, kid." Complaints had been made as early as 2014, but were ignored until the BuzzFeed article forced the company to take action. He was finally fired in August 2020. Then, in 2025, another disturbing story emerged. A former cameraman described what he called the Ellen look. According to him, it was a cold stare Ellen gave members of the audience, with narrowed eyes and raised cheekbones, like a queen choosing the next person to be punished. The cameraman said the show went through 9 stage managers in a single season, all of them men, because Ellen seemed not to like male employees. Some male employees were so afraid that they did not dare let anyone catch them talking to Portia, Ellen's wife. Even a brief, polite conversation could cost you your job because of jealousy. One moment was particularly memorable. The cameraman witnessed Ellen ban Gordon Ramsay from appearing on the show after he complained about spoiled meat being used in a cooking segment. She told a producer, "Don't let this person on the show again." But the most heartbreaking case was still that bone marrow transplant. The producer was asked to postpone their child's surgery. That detail continued to be repeated, reminding people that loyalty to the show was always placed above compassion. That July, actor Brad Garrett, who had appeared on Ellen's show many times, finally spoke out at midnight on July 31st, 2020. He posted on Twitter that the mistreatment on the show came from the top and that he knew several people who had been treated terribly. The tweet immediately sparked a fierce reaction. Just hours later, Leah Thompson, another respected actress, publicly backed him up. She simply replied, "It's a true story." That was the moment when insiders were no longer merely whispering about what was happening. But for many fans, the cracks had already begun to show much earlier. In November 2019, during a live interview, actress Dakota Johnson calmly but firmly corrected Ellen. Ellen joked that she had not been invited to Dakota's 30th birthday party. Dakota looked at her and replied, "Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited." She even brought up how Ellen had complained the previous year about not being invited. When Ellen appeared surprised, Dakota added, "Ask everybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer." Ellen awkwardly admitted that she had a busy schedule. The moment felt very real and showed viewers something they had never seen before. Someone openly challenging Ellen on her own show. Taylor Swift had also experienced a similar situation. In 2012, Ellen repeatedly teased Taylor about dating Zac Efron. Taylor denied it, but Ellen insisted, "Yes, you did date Zac." When the audience laughed, Ellen then suggested that Taylor play a game. She had to ring a bell every time a picture of someone she had dated appeared on the screen. Taylor said she did not want to play because it made her uncomfortable. But Ellen kept pushing. Taylor looked as though she was about to cry and asked, "Do you know how bad this makes me feel?" Years later, the clip went massively viral on TikTok, and people began to see it differently. It was no longer funny. It became sad. In 2008, Ellen also put Mariah Carey in an uncomfortable position. At the time, there were rumors that Mariah might be pregnant. Ellen brought out champagne and said, "Let's toast to you not being pregnant." Mariah objected and said it was peer pressure, but she still took a sip. Ellen immediately shouted, "You're pregnant!" At the time, it seemed like a joke. But years later, Mariah revealed that she suffered a miscarriage shortly after that show, and that she had not been ready to share her pregnancy with anyone at the time. The moment was not only uncomfortable, but also incredibly painful. Kathy Griffin also had a long-running feud with Ellen. It began in 1996, when Griffin guest starred on one of Ellen's sitcoms. She was asked to sing a commercial jingle during a table read, and the way Ellen ordered her to do it made her feel humiliated. Their relationship deteriorated further after Joan Rivers died. Griffin wanted Ellen to support a tribute show. Ellen refused and said Joan was very mean. Griffin became angry and later wrote about the incident in her 2017 book. She did not name Ellen directly, but everyone understood who she was talking about. She also claimed that Ellen had even gotten her banned from the dressing room at the Emmy Awards. After BuzzFeed's investigation, events moved very quickly. Warner Media launched an investigation. 3 top producers, Lehman, Glavin, and Jonathan Norman, were fired on August 17, 2020. Former employees continued to share more stories. One black employee said a writer once told them, "I only know the names of the white people who work here." Another person returned to work after attempting suicide, but was fired not long afterward. Ellen spoke with more than 200 members of her staff on a video call and admitted that she had run the company like a machine rather than a place for human beings. When season 18 premiered on September 21, 2020, she opened with an apology, but her words were not convincing enough. She said things like, "If I've ever let someone down," making it sound as though even she was not sure whether it had actually happened. She then suggested that the attacks against her were deliberate, as though someone were intentionally trying to bring her down. People believed she was trying to portray herself as the victim. And once again, Brad Garrett and Leah Thompson reminded everyone that this was nothing new. It had been going on for years. The damage had already been done. From September 2020 to March 2021, more than 1 million viewers stopped watching the show. Viewership fell from 2.6 million to 1.5 million, a decline of nearly 43%. The show's core audience of younger women under 54 fell by 38%. Advertising revenue dropped from $131 million to $105 million, a loss of $26 million. Even the episode featuring her apology initially saw a surge in viewership. But afterward, audiences did not return. By 2022, the show was struggling to maintain more than 1.5 million viewers. The final episode aired on May 26, 2022. After 19 seasons, the show officially came to an end. In 2024, Ellen released a Netflix special titled For Your Approval. It was her final performance. She joked about being kicked out of show business for being too difficult. She said that the Be Kind girl was not actually kind at all. She talked about therapy and how difficult it had been to deal with the backlash. Afterward, she and Portia moved to England, settling on a $20 million estate in the Cotswolds. They arrived there one day before the U.S. election in November 2024 and decided to stay after waking up to tearful messages from friends about Trump's victory. But even that escape did not last long. By July 2025, they had put the property on the market for $30 million, saying they needed better facilities for their horses.